Welcome to Fireside Chats. I am Magela Pillai, and today we will be taking up the subject of feeling safe in an unsafe world. The world that we are living in has caused concern for many because of what is happening on the outside. We need go no further than our own television sets to know what atrocities are taking place, and this causes quite a bit of consternation for many viewers. People do not feel safe in their own homes. People don't feel safe when they go outside. You fear for yourself. You fear for your family. This topic forms part of a series in which we look at things like the core of spirituality. We look at philosophical and spiritual integrity. We also ask you to look at what your relationship is with God, the divine, whomever you believe him to be. We also ask that you keep an open mind and look at the subject and ask your own heart, are you feeling unsafe in this world? To this end, I would like to introduce Sister Denise, who has been practicing Rajyoga Meditation for over 40 years. Sister Denise, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And a very, very warm welcome to today's show. Feeling safe in an unsafe world. This is a bone of contention with many, isn't it? I think because in order to protect their loved ones, people need not necessarily articulate what their fears are.
I think one of the things that's happened is, especially with parents and their children, they have become overprotective. And then that means that the young person doesn't really develop their own capacity to make themselves or to take care of themselves or look after themselves. So we have to be careful about that. Of course, it's a very dangerous world, but you can't predict if everything's going to be okay or if everything's not going to be okay. So to be hypervigilant is not healthy. To be attentive is healthy. And I think that people need to be very aware of their surroundings and to be able to detect if there's some untoward atmosphere or vibration that's forming and then take evasive action. But of course, a lot of things take you totally by surprise, and there's nothing you can do about that. But really what the topic we're looking at today is not being safe, but feeling safe. And how you feel depends on you. So if you feel at risk, then you can amplify that feeling by thinking about how at risk you feel. But if you are courageous and you hold with you this sense that God is always with me, then that is going to amplify your sense of feeling safe. But it means that one should not be reckless. It's good to have the feeling that I'm not alone, but you also have to be very responsible. If you go out and tell someone where you're going, keep your cell phone with you in case any emergency happens. Keep it charged. Keep gasoline or petrol in your car if you're driving, because you don't want to run out of petrol in a place where you could be at risk if you are, away from anywhere where you can make contact with people. But it's a combination of how you feel, how you make yourself feel, and being sensible in a world where, yes, there are risks.
Mr. Denise, you speaking of physical protection, let's talk about how one protects the spirit.
I was talking to a person yesterday who was saying, I'm getting sick, my husband is getting sick, we don't know what's going on. And they found that actually the location of their apartment was unsuitable because of so many electronic energies that were going through it. So there are intangibles, different kinds of pollution, whether it's noise pollution, electronic pollution, GPS, things like this. And so, I mean, I would always select as a place to live somewhere where you have a minimum of that, because people don't know how damaging these electronic energies can be. So, you know, more and more people are starting to take care of those things because they have an effect on actually how you feel inside your skin. So it's physical, but also psychological. And when you have to take care of your spirit in terms of, you know, somebody having bad thoughts about you or bad wishes for you, there, I think one of the things that we can do as yogis, as people who develop spiritual powers, you know, one of the suggestions is that you create an orb of light around yourself and keep yourself within that. That means you have to pay attention to your meditation and make sure that you generate that kind of a wall of light around you, which is very protective, yeah.
So Denise, I once heard it said that a lot of people suffer from what is called low-level anxiety, where there's a feeling of anxiousness without them necessarily being aware of it. And that is in response to what is happening on the outside. So Denise, how does one overcome this feeling? Do you live with it? Or do you neutralize the feeling?
Well, I think it's very true what you say, that most people living in low-grade anxiety or middle-grade or high-grade, and that's very much connected with the tensions that there are around. Where you're living somewhere where it's very crowded, there's something called the mind space, where all the thoughts and feelings of all the people around you are filling that space, and you are also living in that space, so you're definitely going to be impacted by it. And there again, you know, you have to really make sure that your level of meditation, your level of yoga is functioning for you, so that you can create some kind of a neutralizing barrier with your own mind, and then also just the ability to accommodate it, or the power to accommodate it, and to be able to discriminate that this feeling that I'm feeling isn't necessarily coming from me, it's coming from the environment, and that you just have to deal with.
So Denise, there are some who feel that it is impossible to feel totally safe in today's world, especially if you're living in countries where your own country is actively engaged in war with another country, or there's a political upheaval, or there's Mother Nature is rearing her ugly head, as it were. How does one deal with that, where you're feeling primarily threatened? There's this feeling of being threatened at all the time. It's an all-pervasive feeling of threat. Every breath you take is, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Well, this is really what creates post-traumatic stress syndrome. And a lot of people have that who are not in war. And of course, most people who are in war do have that. And so how do you deal with it? It's very difficult to deal with it, but it is very important to work with your thoughts, you know, and really say, okay, my only protection is God, because there isn't anything else that you can rely on. And I think you have to make your peace with the possibility that you could get killed, or you could get kidnapped, or you could get injured, or you could get harmed in some way. Making your peace with it means that you are not going to be worrying about it, and that you decide as a personal policy that whatever comes up, you'll deal with it as and when it comes. And behind that, you make yourself as peaceful, as powerful, as spiritually filled as you possibly can. This is the best way that you can protect yourself.
It is not easy, though, on a feeling level to be able to deal with this, because it doesn't come across in thought. It comes across as this creepy feeling of unease. Okay, how do you address feelings that you not necessarily verbalize?
Well, feelings, no matter what, feelings are connected with thoughts. And so in your mind, you detect an atmosphere which is creepy. And so in your mind, you create a response to that creepy feeling, which becomes a feeling that neutralizes that other feeling. All of it has to be done in the mind. And the thing is that, a lot of people, they don't think that they have that much power over these things. But once you start to practice meditation, you realize you do have power over it, and you can keep yourself in a very peaceful, harmonious state. And another thing that is definitely the case, when you are in a very harmonious state, those things that are threatening to you, they are not harmonious things. And so your harmony and that disharmony do not connect. So you can move through it without it seeing you and without you seeing it. That can happen.
Yes, Sister Denise, it is a common occurrence between both male and females, adult and children, to feel victimized, to have this victim, what I call a victim mentality, where you think, who's going to hurt me next? Or what's going to happen next? And you were saying earlier that you can tell yourself, whatever comes up, I will be able to handle. But with the victim mentality, you don't trust that you will be able to handle, despite proof to the contrary in many cases. How do you deal with, in that sense, not the external that's of a challenge to you, but your inner lack of belief in yourself, and coupled with that, past negative experience?
Well, it's all to do with attitude. If you have the attitude that I don't see myself as a victim, I see myself as more like a warrior moving through maybe some dangerous situation, but more like a hero than a victim, more like a person who can manage things. I mean, there's so many role models like that people can adopt within themselves and say, okay, let's go. And it's much more healthy to do that. If something is going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you anyway. It's no use kind of invoking it. And when you're in a victim mentality, you are invoking it. You're looking for some perpetrator, you see. But it's because of your attitude to yourself, and that is because you have internalized an attitude that maybe people have taught you. You're in danger. Oh, don't cross the road. This, that. Children especially get taught to be predisposed to become victims. And so then we need to take a look at some of the parenting in that case, because it's not healthy to get a person to feel weak and helpless. If a person feels, okay, I could be attacked, well, learn some ways to defend yourself. And then you're in a much better position to deal with things when they come.
Okay. Would you tell us how you enlist the help of the divine in what you just said?
The sense that God is with you is something like you just make yourself feel very secure. You allow yourself or cause yourself to feel the presence, the company, and it puts you into this vibration that I was mentioning earlier, where you're completely harmonious. You feel that security, and that security actually acts as a vibrational blanket around you. And I find that things that are untoward will miss you, will not happen in the place where you are, or you will even get an intuitive feeling not to go down this street, go down another street. And so if you're connected intuitively with what's happening, then you're better off.
Tell us more about intuition in the sense, because I like what you're saying, that people should learn to trust their intuition more. How do you teach yourself to do that if you have been ignoring your own inner voice for most of your life?
Well, you begin to practice it. You really start following the voice of conscience. That'll take you further inside. That'll disconnect you from being totally under the influence of people around you. And as you become more meditative, more internalized, your intuitive faculties actually awaken. And then you can start experimenting with them, and you find that, yes, they are much more reliable than you had given them credit for.
Okay. And together with the internal, we spoke of intuition, we spoke about feelings. How does the mind and intellect feature into this? What is your self-talk like in order to offset the threat from the outside?
Well, I think, and certainly in my experience, there's this internal conviction that it will be all right, I will make it, I will get through. I've been in quite dangerous situations, but I've never thought anything differently than it will be all right, I will get through. And
you want to give us a few examples of that? Like what?
Sometimes it's been with wild animals in the wild. You need to tune in with the wild so that you get a sense of what is an intelligent way to move, so that you do not attract the attention in a dangerous way of wild animals. You also need to be unafraid. You have to be really in your power, and they will pick up that vibration. So there's that. That can apply to swarms of bees or bears or wolves or something like this. I've been in areas in cities, inner city areas, where people like myself are not expected to feel safe at all. I was at one time doing work with gangs in Los Angeles, and I asked them, why is it that you wouldn't attack me? And they came immediately, well, you're not against us, you're for us. I said, well, how do you know? They said, we know.
Sure. And this is non-verbal.
Yes, it's non-verbal. It's a feeling. It's to do with perhaps body language or how you present yourself or whatever. But certainly the dress that I wear, the white sari, is a message of peace anyway. And there are sometimes people who look at me as something strange, but they get over it quite quickly. Because the vibration, I think they will feel it. People's antennas are there if only they will listen to them. And I think that the consciousness that you have where you are moving anywhere is telling people how you want them to relate to you. So you want them to relate to you, you're non-threatening, you're friendly, you're good, there's no problem, move through, and it just seems to work very well.
So Denise, this is a daily practice, isn't it? If one falls into this category of having a permanent state of anxiety or fear, and if you're, jump when someone coughs, do you then have to sit down with yourself on a daily basis and sort out your feelings?
Well,
because nothing that you said sounds easy at all.
I think that if a person is really jumpy, which is something that happens after they have had a really bad experience, they remain jumpy for a while. And so you need to be debriefed by someone or some psychological help or something like this, because these are very real traumatic events that leave a scar, and people definitely have to have someone to help them through it. You know, when people come back from war, or they come out of a train crash or a plane crash, or I had a friend who was in a plane crash and who was experiencing these jumpiness for actually even a few years afterwards, because the bigger the trauma, the longer the effect of that reaction, that jumpiness. And a time comes where you do have to sit with yourself and say, okay, now I'm going to work through this. And you can do that.
Okay, and involves daily work?
It doesn't have to be daily work. It involves specific work where you really put yourself in situations and teach yourself to have more normal responses, because the actual danger isn't there, but your body has locked itself into that and hasn't been able to let go. So you have to sort of teach it to let go.
A lot of what you said is a situation of not knowing the difference between fiction and reality, isn't it?
In a way, yes.
Okay, Sister Denise, unfortunately we have to say goodbye to you right now. Your words have a very healing effect, and I do hope the audience, wherever they may be in the world, are able to take your message to heart and are able to realize that if they are feeling unsafe, and which category includes people all across the globe, they will be able to take some solace from what you just said and be able to heal their own hearts. And for that, I thank you. So, brothers and sisters, I hope that you were able to hear and understand, and also to some extent experience what Sister Denise was saying. And the beauty of listening to somebody who has 40 years of spirituality under their belt is it's not just about the words, it's about the feelings that it creates for you and around you. And Sister Denise's message is very deep and clear, that you can come out of a negative space of feeling unsafe, irrespective of your external circumstances. She also advised that to know that it could be inside, but it need not necessarily be outside, which means it involves a change of attitude. And you also shared how to enlist the help of the divine. And if you feel you do not have enough of your own power to deal with fear, then you can always draw on the strength of the divine, who I believe has a lot to spare. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you were able to feel some sense of relief from whatever trauma that you have been experiencing as a result of this. So the bottom line is, it is possible to feel safe in an unsafe world. Thank you so much for joining us, and we do hope that we see you soon. Goodbye.